This is Everest Base Camp, and you're traveling with me, Tabitha Lipkin, on the Everest Base Camp trek. This trek is about round trip 80 miles, takes 11 days, and reaches altitudes right here at 17,598 feet. But before it's all said and done, we're gonna get up to 18,000 feet right here in the Himalayas in the middle of Nepal.
You see, I actually filmed that before I finished the trek, wanting to show off the awesome base camp sign. And while most of what I said was accurate, I wanted to let you know that I actually hiked closer to 100 miles round trip with my extra hikes. But let's take you back to the beginning, landing at the Tenzing Hillary Airport, world famous for being, well, a little bit dangerous.
It is so surreal to be reporting to you right here from Lukla Airport, considered the most dangerous airport in the world, situated right in the middle of the Himalayas. But what makes it so dangerous is actually the runway, which is on a 12% grade. Now, the runway itself is only about 527 meters long, which is about 1,729 feet. And at its width, it's only about 30 meters wide, which is about 100 feet. So pilots, like the one that just landed behind me, they need prime conditions. The trek is officially starting. We just had a little bit of breakfast to get pumped after our flight into Lukla, and now we're walking through the streets of Lukla before, I think we've got about 3 hours ahead of us before we stop for lunch.
Our trip was slightly delayed because of weather at the Lukla airport, so we're hiking our first day from Lukla to Chumoa. Originally, we would have stopped in Pha Ding, but we needed to make up for some lost time and get a little further ahead. The first day was filled with learning all sorts of things, like the Buddhist prayer wheels, always making sure you turn them clockwise and with your right hand. And these tablets, some of them hundreds of years old, always making sure that you pass them to the left.
Look how stunning. Videos. I've said this before in my videos. Videos do not do the beauty of places justice. You have to see it for yourself.
The Everest Base Camp trek is a really unique trek in that it's a form of tourism that gives directly back to the local community there in Nepal, and a form of Everest tourism that I personally think is a lot more ethical than going all the way to the summit. I'll explain more on that later. While trekking, you stay in locally owned family tea houses, which are kind of like hostels. You eat locally sourced meals, which range from momos, which are kind of like these delicious dumplings filled with meats or veg, and you can also end up eating a lot of carb-heavy meals like spaghetti or fried noodles. You can get apples that are safe to eat raw, or most tea houses will steam up some local vegetables for you as well.
We just stopped for lunch, and I got a vegetable momo. Delicious. We're going in. We're having the yak cheese. Yeah, we're gonna cheers with our yak cheese. Yak cheese cheers, and we're gonna try it.
Sorry?
That's good. Yeah. It's got good flavor. It's got like almost like a Swissy kind of cheddary. I sound like a wine person who doesn't know wine trying to describe wine. It's got like a cheesy flavor. It's really good. I also have to be clear, it's knack cheese, not yak cheese. Knacks are the females and yaks are the males. It comes from a female, from the men, not from the boy yaks, from the girl yaks. Knacks. See?
The increase in altitude can be pretty hard on the body, especially for someone who is not used to it. Again, you're going to reach altitudes over 17,500 feet, which is over 5,360 meters. You do have time to acclimatize, but in addition to that, I took Diamox the entire trip to feel less of the effects. And don't worry, your oxygen and heart rates are monitored closely each day, especially if you go with a group. I traveled with a company called G Adventures and cannot say enough great things about my personal experience, especially with our guide Gelu and his assistant guides Dawa and Pemba. As far as what to pack, you have to stay pretty light. No more than 20 pounds for your bag that porters help with, and your backpack is recommended to be about 10 pounds. September to October, which is the high seasons for trekking, you're going to need to pack for really warm and really cold weather. And you can do some laundry on the trek, and you can shower sometimes, but most importantly, you're going to want sunscreen and a lot of it. Although it was pretty warm for most of our trip, I stayed as covered as I could because you're outside all day, every day. And by the end of our very first day, we had tracked a total of 11 miles to Chumoa.
After a long day that was elongated by our original delay, we have finally made it to our guest house, our tea house for the night. I'm literally wanting to lay in the ground. I'm tired, but in a very good way tired. And it's also really beautiful, and it's like the perfect temperature outside. Oh, let me show you guys just how pretty it is. Oh, look at that. Unreal. It's day 2 of our trek, and what a beautiful day we have ahead of us. We're going to Namche Bazzar, which is about a 3-hour hike. And after we get there, it is expected that we'll do essentially a check-in, and then we'll do like a little acclimatization hike after that. So it should be a pretty mild day, and the weather is just prime.
Most groups when trekking through Everest Base Camp stay 2 days in Namche Bazzar, but because of our delay, we're only staying 1 day. The hike was full of views that are somehow getting better and better. It almost reminded me of the Pacific Northwest or even Canada. Pine trees, rivers, and lots of sunshine. Mount Everest and Everest Base Camp, for that matter, are inside Sagarmatha National Park. From Lukla, the average trip takes about a week walking. There's only 2 ways you can get in and out of the trek route. And you might have guessed one of them is trekking, but you can take a helicopter in. The helicopters, however, are pretty pricey depending on where you're flying to and flying from. Plus, you do still need to acclimatize. Some people will take the hike in and then fly out, but we're doing the whole thing. Plus, this trek is definitely more about the journey than the destination.
All right, it's a little loud because we're by this river, but the famous Everest Bridge right here. That's the old one on the bottom, and the top one is the new one. We're on the famous Everest Bridge right now. It's pretty crazy. There she is. So I get my finger in there. Whoop, right there. It's decent. Nice. We made it to our second stop along the trail at Namche Bazzar. You can see the whole town essentially behind me. The hike today has been outrageously beautiful. We've seen so many waterfalls, crossed so many bridges, and it's only about noon, so we're gonna check in, get a little rest, and then we're gonna go on a little acclimatization walk. Acclimatization walk.
That's the word.
We're gonna do that and rest up for the rest of the trek.
The walk was really cool, getting to see the town of Namche Bazzar from another perspective and getting to learn more about Tenzing Norgay and Edmund Hillary at the local museum sponsored by the Norgay Foundation, all before discovering the most exciting surprise on the trek.
Chocolate coconut cake, out of this world. German bakery in the middle of Nepal. It's so good.
The village of Namche had a little bit of everything, which we were told would be a good last stop to grab things you might need like candy bars. Or I even ended up grabbing a cool new yak hat to wear to represent our group, Yak Baby, also representing the many yaks and knacks you see along the way. This all before taking a much needed rest after hiking about 7 miles total on day 2.
Just woke up and this is our view once all the clouds have cleared. It is such a beautiful morning, waking up with that stunning view of the mountains. We are leaving Namche Bazzar and we are going to Tengboche, which apparently is a place that is really famous for a beautiful monastery where a lot of people who are going to summit Everest participate in ceremonies. We are not summiting Everest, we are just going to the base camp, but it's going to be, I think, a really lovely and spiritual experience to go to that monastery. And another beautiful day of hiking. Couldn't be more fortunate. Feeling really, really grateful and really, really humble.
The third day of the trek takes us along a route that shows us the tip of Everest and Mt. Locals say that Mt. is the most beautiful mountain in the world.
I forgot to ask you guys, do you like my yak hat? Our group is called the Yak Baby, so I got this when we were in Namche Bazzar. But a really popular thing to do as you're going along the trek is to actually stop at the tea houses, not just to stay the night, but to grab some tea to enjoy for your journey. And you get views like this right there. Mt. is considered one of the most beautiful mountains in the entire world, and we've gotten to see her in all her glory today.
This tea house owner, like many you'll meet, have pictures on the walls of not only family and sometimes the famous people that have stayed there or that they've met along the way. Some tea house owners have summited Everest and display those pictures and certificates as well. My favorite tea on the trek, I'm a big fan of the lemon ginger honey. If you know, you know. But there's also coffee, hot chocolates, and sodas that can be ordered as well. You're gonna see a lot of yaks, cows that have been bred with yaks, horses, mules, all that trekking with you. You're also going to be hiking along with porters, some working for local businesses, but many working with the local trekking companies to help carry bags. This is a way of life for many of the men in the region, and is also a way for locals to participate in tourism. Many working their way up to hiking guides and some even becoming Sherpas. And being a Sherpa is also not as straightforward as you might think. My guy Jelu's last name is Sherpa because Sherpa is an ethnic group of people in the region. But the name has morphed into something more, being a high designation for those leading hikers to the top of Everest.
But there is a job description called Sherpa that they work as an assistant guide. Normally what we usually use here in this region. Because nowadays we operate more the tea house trek, so we don't have many assistant guide. So we don't say much like Sherpa there, but early days when we operate more camping trek, that time we have a more assistant guide, means that they set the tents, they check the things. So those people who work this job that they call Sherpa.
After a long day of hiking, we finally made it to Tengboche and celebrated with a hot chocolate and a tour, complete with a view of a very happy yak who wanted to play in the dirt.
And in 3, 2, 1. And I'm pushing out, I'm pushing out, I'm pushing out to that view. And this is the whole room. Wait, this is so cool. A hole just opened up where you can see Mt. Everest, and literally it's cloudy all around it. Let me show you.
Then it's time to check out the famous Tengboche Monastery, which not only takes your breath away with its stunning structure and all of the carvings, but also the history dating back hundreds of years. We were very fortunate to be there at a time when the novice monks were practicing. We also settled in and meditated while they played. You almost forget you hiked 9 miles to get here because suddenly you're at peace.
So one of my favorite things about the trek so far, and one of the things that has surprised me the most, is that there are incredible bakeries along the trek. Like, it's not what you would expect, but the bakeries have been insane. The cakes, the cookies, all of it. And it's not just because you're far away from home and you're like, oh, anything's good. No. The baked goods here are amazing. Okay, to wrap up the day, I've had a shower, a hot shower. It's everything I needed, and I'm ending with freshly baked pizza from a pizza oven.
It is yet another morning with an incredible view. Natalie, are you stoked on the view? Stoked on the view! Let's show you. I'm just gonna turn it around. Open up the window. Oh, what's that, you might ask? Well, that peak back there is Mt Everest, and that is Amadabla. Amadabla? Amadabla. Yeah. We've woken up this morning, and the entire Himalayan valley that we're situated in is clear, and we are completely surrounded by mountains. We have these incredible mountains behind our tea house, and we have them all the way surrounding us behind the monastery. It's unreal, the beauty. Like, waking up for sunrise is a must if you do the Everest base camp trek. You have to wake up for sunrise because that's when you're gonna get the best of the best views.
After soaking in the beautiful morning in Tengboche, on day 4, it was off again for another glorious day of hiking. This time, we're making our way to Dingboche. This hike included about 8 miles, reaching altitudes of over 14,000 feet. And this is where I definitely started to feel a little bit more out of breath than earlier in the trek. But the views, they just really keep you going.
Okay, I had to put my yak hat back on because we ran into yaks that are just feasting on the side of the mountain here. Ah! Like, every day is better and better. Also crossing a beautiful river. And I have an insane view of Amadabla, which is just behind the camera.
The pattern of tea breaks with baked goods continue, and it's just the pep in your step to keep going. And then just a little more hiking before you reach your lunch destination. And lunch at this point is usually whatever I can make myself eat, not because the food isn't good. It's really just the altitude that makes you a little nauseous, even with the Diamox. And I've been lacking in the veggie and fruit department, so I try to incorporate that whenever I could.
We are going right there.
A little further through the mountain, next to the river, and we finally arrive.
Ooh, after another long day of hiking today, must have been about 8 hours, it feels. Yeah, about 7, 8 hours. Ooh, what's going on here? Don't worry about that little guy. That little guy, don't worry about that little guy. We have made it to Dingboche. And we are staying here for 2 nights. So we are gonna acclimatize here. Tomorrow we're gonna do an acclimation walk. And then our acclimatization walk. Acclimation walk? I've done this twice now. Don't come for me in the comments. I'm figuring it out. I'm also at altitude, so I can pronounce things however I want to. But this is it, the Peace Lodge, and it is quite peaceful. The clouds have come in, so it's hard to show you guys what's behind these clouds. But, as you might expect, tomorrow, I'm gonna give you a little peek. You can maybe see it. It's peeking through the clouds. The peak is peeking through the clouds, and that will be the start of yet another incredible day. Here we go. We got sea buckthorn juice, which is local, and they warmed it up for me, and I'm gonna try it for the first time. Oh, that's great. It kind of has like a lemony taste to it. I'm gonna try it. Yeah. And you guys can watch Natalie try it. Hold on. Yeah? Yeah. She's like,
That's enough for me.
Look at this. Sunset time. Everything looks so beautiful. I have to watch my feet as I turn around, guys, because I'm standing on a wall. Look at that. Insane.
For dinner tonight, I decided to try the veggie burger, and as you can see, it did not disappoint.
It is another clear morning, and we are fully ready to acclimatize. So we're only gonna do a little 3.5 hour hike just to get ready for our bigger hikes that are over the next 2-3 days. We're right now at about 14,000 feet and not doing too bad. I've been taking Diamox, so I haven't really had any issues. I did wake up with a headache today, but that went away pretty quickly as I continued to consume water. And yeah, I'm excited about the next 3 days because these are the big boys, the big days. Finally getting to Everest Base Camp, and there's also an important valley that we're going to, which is really the valley where you can see all the mountains. Everyone talks about Base Camp, but this valley is apparently really the spot that you get excited about going to. So I'm ready to see it all with my own eyes.
On the 5th day of hiking and our acclimation day in Dingboche, hey, that rhymes, I feel like we got just what was needed. It was only about a 3.5-mile hike around the mountain behind our tea house. It was sunny, the wind was blowing, but as I keep saying, the views somehow just keep getting better and better every single day. After the hike, we explored the village and found a shop that had a bunch of different things that a lot of different people in our group needed for the next couple of days. We finished the evening with a movie screening about the Sherpa people and the incredible undertaking many of the men go through in order to get paying customers to the top of Everest. The documentary is called Sherpa, and I highly recommend it. Essentially, it took an avalanche killing 16 Sherpas on the Kahumbu icefall to bring the workers together to strike for better wages, equipment, and conditions for helping climbers take on Everest. Something the Sherpas were somewhat successful at, but are still fighting for today. That's why I believe for people who have an interest in seeing Mt Everest, the base camp trek is a great alternative. You're giving back directly to the locals on the trek, there's minimal risk for anyone on the trek, and you get to see Everest without the insane risk to Sherpas taking paying customers to the top. The documentary was something to simmer on before the final push to Everest Base Camp over the next 2 days.
Hard to say goodbye to Dingboche, but we're headed to Loboche. And we couldn't be more fortunate with the weather. I actually got some prayer flags today and put them on my backpack just to get us through the rest of the journey because we're only halfway there. We end up reaching base camp tomorrow, and then we get to 18,000 feet the next day, and then we start our journey back down. But just because we've reached the pinnacle of the journey doesn't mean the journey is over. And that's important to remember. The journey is still ongoing for at least another week.
On the 6th day of the hike from Dingboche to Loboche, it took about another 8 miles, and we got to hike through the valley we had seen from our acclimation hike the day before, which was unreal and just got us even more excited for what to expect when we finally reach Everest Base Camp.
Oh, that was you. You have a gift.
What's that? Would you look at that? There's another, well, it's reversed for you guys, another bakery. And I'm not mad about it. The bakeries are so good here.
The pattern of a stop for a warm drink and a sweet treat continues. This time, I was able to actually read a little bit more about how that sea buckthorn juice is made.
The layers have changed because it is windy up here. We climb up there. Probably got about another 30 minutes to go, but look at this. So beautiful. Especially with the clouds rolling in, and then, oh, there's more.
This place called the Lukla Pass. The original name is called the Chakpulari Dada, where we see these many memorials here. The people who die or lost on Mt Everest there, and you see like some famous climbers memorials too, like the Rob Hall, Scott Fisher, Babu Chiri Sherpas, and there's many more. Go and have a look. Enjoy your time.
So one of the points of this memorial is that everyone who is either trekking to base camp or plans to go to Everest comes through here and sees these memorials of these incredibly motivated individuals. And while base camp and the trek has been an exciting adventure, I think it's also important to remember the loss of life that goes along with it. And it's not just people who summit Everest. I mean, people who have simply just been at base camp have been affected by earthquakes and have died. And so walking through here and just seeing their memorials is a stark reminder of how precious life really is.
Lukla Pass was an emotional and touching place to be. It's also one of the last stops before we start trekking around snow, which had fallen from an unseasonable snowfall in the area just a week prior.
We did it. We made it to Loboche, which means tomorrow is our base camp trek. And although I look a little crazy with my hat and my windbreaker and my scarves, I had to keep the sun and the wind and a little bit of the cold off of me. But it was another just epic day of hiking. And now I gotta catch up with the group because I stepped away to film this. Winnie, how you feel? Same. This is Loboche. Whew. Feeling good. Feeling good. You guys feeling good?
Yes.
Yeah, they're feeling good too. Okay, so they say that the prices rise significantly as you get closer to base camp, and they are not wrong, where everything here is almost triple what it was yesterday.
After seeing our tea house, we decided to do another optional hike for the evening. Before my trek started, I met someone who told me that no matter how tired you are, no matter how far the optional hike is, you have to take it. And each time I did, it was magical. Even with the fog. I mean, you are in the mountains. The fog will come and it will go as it pleases.
I told you guys, so many bakeries. This is the world's highest bakery cafe. We're gonna see what kind of goodies they got. So far the goodies, non-stop, unstoppable, delicious, everywhere we go. Ooh, look at that brownie. Okay, you can't see it. Oh.
The night ended with us huddling around the wood-burning fireplace in the middle of the tea house and watching a stunning sunset as we overlooked Mt Everest.
Nat, what is today?
Base camp day!
It's base camp day, and look at this sunrise. Beautiful. And Pemba, how you feel? He's ready to go. Let's go.
And on the 7th day, we trekked to Everest Base Camp. And it was something I would consider a pretty easy hike with, again, can you guess what I'm gonna say? Yep, unreal views, including the best of the Kahumbu Glacier I had seen yet.
So, one of the peaks of this hike is we have these 360 views all around us. Over those mountains is Tibet. Over those mountains is the way back home. But we're not going that way. That's for tomorrow.
The most difficult part was actually the traffic jams of people, mules, yaks, and horses going to and from Loboche to Gorekshep, closer to the Gorakshep side. This was the day I couldn't deny the difference in altitude, but my focus was really on getting to base camp and seeing the space that so many Sherpas, trekkers, and adventurers call home while attempting the Everest climb.
All right, we have made it. These are my yak and knack friends, fully covered. I really don't want to get burned, and there is a lot of snow around here. But we have made it to Gorekshep, where we're gonna drop our bags, have some lunch, and then we're going to base camp. We just gotta go that way. Not doing too bad. Right from here, you can see the Khumbu icefall. We'll see a better version of it once we get down. But that is the icefall all Everest hikers in Nepal have to cross in order to get to Everest. Who's back there? She's behind the clouds right now. All right, let me show you guys behind me. Peeking through, that's Everest, and that's the Hakumbu ice fall right behind me.
We made it!
We made it! Oh, guys. Oh, Mitch, get one of these? Get one of these, Bumba? Okay, we finally made it to Everest Base Camp. As you can see right behind me, this is what we've been trekking towards for 6-7 days. So it's pretty surreal to be here, but it's also pretty humbling. You know, it's not lost on our group that Everest Base Camp is not only a destination for trekkers, but it's also a spot where a lot of climbers start their journey, and sometimes they don't finish their journey. So it's very humbling and very surreal to be here, and I feel very grateful to have made it all this way.
Pachamama!
A little joint juice.
Joint juice.
After some joint shots and something warm to drink, we eased into the evening with a beautiful sunset and the knowledge that we made it to base camp and back. But we had to wake up at 3:30 a.m. to climb Patthar. Today, the hike was 9 miles on the dot total.
This is the view. We woke up at 4 a.m. Mt Everest is right there. We're sitting at about, here's Wachi. We're sitting at 18,500 feet. And this was completely worth it, this entire climb, to watch the sunrise over Mt Everest. We're sitting on top of Patthar. This is the highest point of our journey. And what a journey it has been. But it's not even over. It feels so surreal. It feels really, really cool.
There aren't really words for watching the sunrise over Mt Everest, even if she did decide to wear a morning hat of clouds. For being at 18,500 feet, I felt pretty good, but today was by far the longest hiking day, clocked in at 12.5 miles. You see, Patthar is an optional hike, and to me, absolutely worth it. When else can you say that you woke up and watched the sunrise over Mt Everest? You can't even usually see Everest from Everest Base Camp, but you can sometimes see it in the morning and around sunset. And just as I started my hike back, the top of Everest finally revealed herself. Patthar was also the highest point of the EBC trek. From there, it's all back downhill. This time to a little village called Pheriche. And it's the little things out in the wild. I got to try some sea buckthorn berries out on our trek.
So this is the sea buckthorn berry. I don't have enough hands, but I've been trying it. It's very sour. It's actually more sour than the juice. The juice is super sour. This is really tasty, and I'm gonna continue to snack on these on the rest of our journey down. But I have to put my phone away. So we are currently leaving Pheriche, and we are heading back down to Lukla, which takes a total of 4 days. Yesterday was technically day 1, even though it was such an epic day, starting the day at Patthar, but it was a 12-mile day. So I didn't do a ton of filming because I was a bit tired, but I just wanted to stress how awesome this trek is, in the sense of not just the beautiful views that I cannot get enough of, but like how hyper local the experience is. Like 100% of everything we're doing is going into the local economy, and I think that is one of the best ways to travel. There are so many different ways that you can see the world, but being a part of like community tourism, to me, is number one. So we are off to continue to stay and have lunches and teas at local tea houses, and stay at local spots, and make our way back. And although our way back is technically the same way we came in, we're stopping at different spots, so it's not quite the same. And this entire trek is more about the journey and not the destination. Technically, we've been to base camp, we've been to Patthar, but there's still so much more to see. So one way that you can help the environment on the trail is you can actually, let's see if I can bring around. On your way down, you can stop at one of 2 different stations and grab a kilo, 2 kilos, 3 kilos of trash that's been collected, and you can help take it down to Lukla. So this was the furthest station, and there is another station that is, I believe, near Namche. So I grabbed one here and I'll grab one there. And it's not only a cool thing to do, but an easy way to give back to the environment and a beautiful country that will give you so much when you explore it on the Everest Base Camp trek.
Day 10 was our last view of Mount Everest before the trip concluded.
There she is. It's our last view of Mount Everest on this trip as we make our way back down. We say goodbye to her and head to Namche. Oh, feels good. I'm only taking half of my Diamox now, so I'm a little more out of breath. But look at this. Amazing. Just amazing. She's right. Whoop. There.
We stopped back at Namche for some souvenirs, baked goods, and art. And then we were challenged to a friendly game of volleyball with our porters and hiking team before being introduced to their local beverages.
Nice!
Yes! And that was a point! Best video ever!
Here we go.
That's not too bad.
It's weird when you put it down.
Is it?
Oh, yeah.
Let's do some like squats.
Oh, yes.
This is it. The gate that started it all. It's the gate that ends it all. Here we go. I'm not crossing it without my roommate. Do, 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 do.
Congratulations.
We made it!
On our very last day of hiking, I asked my group the highlight of the trip for them and their best piece of advice.
Highlighted trip was the monastery in Tengboche and also seeing the Khumbu Glacier and Khumbu Icefall. Beautiful.
What would you say is your best piece of advice?
Best piece of advice would be ready to roll with anything.
Get into the base camp. Yes.
And what's your piece of advice for someone going on this trek?
Going slowly, enjoying. Yeah.
Visiting the monasteries and getting to base camp Everest. as
What's
well.
your best piece of advice for someone to go on this trek?
The best?
Yeah, like a piece of advice you would give to
Okay. I think is enjoy every single moment, even the difficult and the nice moments, because it's one life experience in your life. Yeah, it's really nice.
someone. There we go. Flashy,
Hey.
your highlight of the trip.
Being so high up in the altitude.
And
I'm
your
feeling that pressure in the head, feeling the lack of oxygen. That's the highlight.
It's a big highlight. What about your piece of advice?
Take good equipment, hiking or trekking equipment. So otherwise it's a struggle.
Highlight of the trip was the Dingboche alchemization hike and Patthar, getting to the top.
And best piece of advice?
Oh my God, prepare for the altitude.
The moment your feet hit the ground when you enter base camp was the highlight for me. And seeing the big stone with base camp and everything that you see on television, it's amazing.
What would be your piece of advice to someone coming on this trek?
Do not eat the cheese.
No cheese.
No cheese.
I think that's my highlight, the general scenery, the whole scenery thing.
The whole picture, yeah.
Andy,
Yes.
highlight of the trip.
Traveling the world with one of my best mates, Mitch. It's been a great time. We love that. This is Winnie's advice, though. It's an attitude problem, not an altitude problem. I think that's what it's about.
Winnie knows that.
Highlight.
Mitch?
Highlight of my trip. Probably just seeing all the different scenery, and then also just like completing the challenge that I set out to achieve. Finishing base camp, which is good. And then advice. I think advice would be, do it with a tour, definitely, because you don't know what you're in for. And just tackle it head on.
Hi, friend. Hi, friend. This is my roommate. What would you say is your highlight of the trip?
Meeting my roommate, of course. I would say it's a toss-up between the monastery and the Alpine Start hike. Always do the optional hikes. That's my advice. And what else? What's my other question?
That was it.
Okay, good.
Perfect.
Do it.
What was your highlight of our trip?
Oh, everyone's getting the Mt Everest base camp, yes, and have a good weather.
What's your best piece of advice for someone coming on the trip?
Best piece means someone or?
Yeah, someone who might come on this trek who's never been.
Oh, three Peruvian, definitely.
Bring Peruvian.
Yes.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So the highlight of the trek is Tengboche monastery and the Patthar day.
Yeah. Okay.
She's taking a knee for this.
Knee has been taken.
South
Ooh, north face. In my north face, south face. Highlight of the trip, I would say, is Patthar, watching the sunrise over Mt Everest. And my best piece of advice is going to be bring more socks than you think you need to bring.
Chris, how do you feel about that?
Bring more socks.
And to round out a magical week and a half of hiking, we pulled the rest of our funds and had one last party with the entire crew, filled with good drinks, good food, and lots of dancing.
So this is the part, I wasn't even sure if I was gonna film this, but on our way out, we got stuck in Lukla for an extra day and a half because we got fogged in. So we need to take a helicopter to a different airport where we can hopefully get a plane to Kathmandu and I can hopefully catch my flight, which takes off tonight at 7 p.m. And I don't mind it so much. Things don't always work out, and that's life. And it's actually been a ton of fun. That's like where you find a lot of the joy and excitement, I think, in life, is when things don't work out. You know, not only get to test yourself, but you get to test your surroundings and you get to live a little. But I am excited the most for a shower. How you guys feel about taking the helicopter?
I'm so nervous about this.
We were able to hop on a helicopter and eventually got on a plane that led us to that hot shower. And you know what? I would turn around and do it all again in a heartbeat. But as you can tell, I wasn't alone. I was actually with 3 Peruvian hiking guides who, for the very first time, were hiking outside of their home country, taking on the Everest Base Camp trek. Let me introduce you to Elias, Washi, and Winnie.
You did such a good job.
Thank you. I'm very emotional, sorry.
No, that's okay.
Winnie Farfun, Elias Uska, and Washington, aka Washi Mejia, are 3 G-Adventures hiking guides who have traveled across the world to hike for the very first time outside of their home country of Peru, taking on the Mt Everest Base Camp trek in Nepal.
Well, was unbelievable, you know. For me, it was very spiritual because also when I'm hiking in the Andes, I try to connect with the mountains. I try to recharge my energy. So it was so special because I wanted to do this hike for my family as well, to leave it like a legacy, you know.
It's part of my family and this is the other.
It was a dream for me since I started working as a Inca warrior, as a guide, as assistant guide. When I heard people saying or talking about Kilimanjaro, Everest, I said, oh, I would like to go one day. And now I'm here. Yes, I made it. This is amazing for me.
Pachamama!
Not only was the hike challenging, but also spiritual for these Peruvian hiking guides, noticing many similarities between Nepal and Peru.
It's quite similar traditions as well.
What are some of those similar traditions?
Well, in the way how the trails go, like in the way the mountains look like, in the style of life on the mountains, the traditional places, lots of strong culture that we can see here, and the way I feel when hiking on Everest. It's so much connection to the mountains, to the power, the energy of these beautiful mountains. And it's very spiritual as well, this place.
The Everest Base Camp Trek is considered a rite of passage for many hikers and trekkers because of its route, which takes about 11 days, 80 miles, and reaching altitudes of over 18,000 feet before it's all said and done. But right here at Base Camp, we're sitting at about 17,598 feet to be exact.
Going up to very high points, it's always rewarding because, that's the end, that's the goal. So what you can take at that place, at that moment, is all the satisfaction that you did got to that place.
Here's Washi. We're sitting at 18,500 feet.
Everything is possible if you focus and if you decide to do it. Yeah.
When asked, Winnie, Washi, and Elias said that hiking with their fellow guides changed their relationship, and they're hoping to do a lot more hikes together in the future, anywhere in the world.
They're actually like my brother and sister. Yes, this is what I can say. They're actually more than friends after this.
They were so supportive. I think without them I couldn't make it, especially when Washi brought up the idea to do this. Of course, in the moment we say, yes, let's do it. But then when I was reading the itinerary, getting more conscious about what we were doing, I was saying, oh my God, what I will do,
I will tell them, hey, we know we can do this, so let's go for another mountain, let's go for another hike, let's make it happen. More and more of those adventures.
Thanks for coming along with me, Tabitha Lipkin, as you travel with Tabitha on this epic journey through the Himalayas to Mt Everest Base Camp and back. I hope you found yourself excited to visit Nepal and possibly take on the Everest Base Camp trek yourself. It's been unlike any other trip I've ever been on, totally life-changing, and I can't recommend it enough.